My friends, we are going to grow and get better together. This is not about me. This is about us. Welcome to Win Today with Johnny Martin. Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Win Today with your boy, Johnny Martin. So glad to be back in studio with my good friends, Dylan Pilon from Cloud9 Marketing Group and Donnie Cav from Seven Roads Media. What's up, fellas?
Hi, John. It's great to see you today.
You know what, Donnie?
Not as much for me.
Yeah, no, see, but that's more honest.
Yeah.
Donnie, I wish you'd be a little bit more transparent. Want to try again?
I don't know what to tell you.
See, well, that's what you should have said the first time.
Thanks
Great.
for the coffee.
Not, it's great to be here today.
Thanks for the coffee.
Well, you're
John.
welcome for the coffee.
Appreciate it very much.
Appreciate you. Now that we've gotten through some team turmoil here, I want to talk to you folks about a topic that I spend a lot of time with my clients, families, the folks I work with, both in my area that I live in and across the country, around this notion of why some of us learn from failure and why some of us do not. If you've listened to past guests, one of the themes that we hear a lot from our past guests is some of their greatest learning experiences have come from failure, and how most people, in their eyes, and maybe in some of yours that are listening, aren't willing to push through the tough stuff to get on the other side of that pain, discomfort, and failure to really grow. And so in light of that, in light of some of the things that our guests have shared and a lot of the work I do with clients and families and athletes and folks from all walks of life that are really just trying to improve and gain some mental toughness and enjoy this life, I've started to do some more research on this notion of how we learn through failure, and just as importantly, why many of us don't. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. For most of us, I think failure is a curse. In other words, we get used to failing. And when we fail, oftentimes we don't take the learning lessons from the failure for a lot of reasons that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But when we shift that mindset to look at failure as a blessing, as a chance to grow, we have to figure out why we failed to begin with. And I think for so many of us, we've heard since we've been young that failure is our best teacher. And so it prompted me to ask a couple questions when I started the research for this show and talking to some of the folks that I pick the brains of when I look for content for the show, and also when I look to grow as a human being. Why is failure our best teacher? How can it be? And if that's the case, if it is our best teacher, why do we keep failing? So I want to talk a little bit about why I think we keep failing. And not, when I say we, I mean those of you that are listening, myself, to one degree or another. If we are living this life with any sort of passion, purpose, then we are going to fail at the things that we seek out to try. I think the biggest reasons that we don't learn from failure is that our egos are bruised. I don't know about you guys, Dylan or Donnie, as you look at your own journey, not just as adults, but coming up as kids, and whether it's in sports, academics, relationships, whatever it is, when we fail, we don't view the failure as that specific thing that we didn't succeed at, but it becomes a bruise on our ego. It's about us, not the thing that we attempted to try to succeed at.
The thing that I find that I think people struggle with more is not failing in front of themselves, but failing in front of other people that they care about.
Absolutely.
Letting down your parents, letting down your significant other. You can internalize your own failure and make excuses in your head for why things went wrong.
That's exactly right. But that's ego. That's ego. When we internalize it and then make every excuse in the world, and that's what we're going to look to sort of flip the mindset on today, folks, is we're going to look at why we fail and try to put the provisions in place to take lessons away from the failure. By no means is this episode going to teach you how to never fail again, because if you're not failing, you're not growing. I still believe that with all of my heart and soul. In fact, one of the things that I hope you take from this message is that it's okay to fail. It is okay to fail. It's what you do after that failure where the greatest lessons can come from. And I think that's the piece that most of us are missing, is that we hear our whole lives that failure is our best friend. Failure should be our greatest teacher. But how? Well, I think the first reason that it stands in the way of teaching us the lessons that it should teach us is because our egos are bruised. we let our anger, like, you just talked about it, Dylan. We let our anger, our frustration, our embarrassment, our jealousy, we let all of those things stand in the way of taking the teachable moments, the lessons from the failure, right? So, and you can sort of make this comparison to anything that you do in your life. You work to pitch a new client, you or Donnie, you work to pitch a new client and you don't get that client, right? When you progress through this business as you have, you understand that you're not going to get them all. And that, okay, so yes, is it a failure from a business standpoint? It's a small failure, but what lessons are we taking from that failure that we can improve upon for that next pitch, that next client? But a lot of times we don't do that because we live in a society and many of us quit. When we fail, we stop. I can tell you from my perspective in doing this podcast and trying to wrap my head around everything that it entails, it is a very, very difficult job. And the reason it's difficult is not the part where I sit here and speak to you folks and talk about life and our journey, but the reason it's become difficult for me is because I never in a million years imagined all of the things that go along with trying to put on a brand like this outside of the actual recording time. And I fail every day. And then I reach out to the people that I trust the most, Donnie and Dylan, and I say, okay, what do I need to do a better job of? How do I attack this more efficiently? But we don't take those lessons from failure because, again, our egos are bruised. We get angry, frustrated, embarrassed, jealous. And so because of that, we can't detach the lessons that will prompt growth from the failure itself. We fail and we immediately define ourselves as failures instead of trying to dissect that failure and take the lessons from it that can help us grow. Here's a great example. You are a athlete to one degree or another. You continuously train and you set goals for yourself, whether they're weight loss goals, whether they are strength goals, whether they're endurance goals, general nutrition, overall health and wellness. And you prepare for those for days, weeks, months at a time. You get into the gym or you go out onto the track and you time yourself. And your goal is to run a 6-minute mile, let's say. And you end up running a 7-minute mile. Well, for a lot of people, it will change entirely the way that they train. And many people will give up entirely. They'll say, well, I just can't run a 6-minute mile, because they're being defined by the failure instead of the lessons that they can take from the training that may help them improve the next time around. If you are a parent or in a relationship and you get to a point where you feel like, well, the relationship is just not working, the relationship is failing. Many of us, as is indicative by the divorce and separation rate in this country, many of us just give up and we say, well, the relationship is failing. We don't do a good enough job of taking the lessons from why it's failing to try to improve. We just define ourselves as failures. So I was doing some reading, and there's a great article that we'll reference in the show notes by a guy by the name of Dr. Guy Winch. He's a PhD, and he wrote an article about this very subject, some of which I'd like to highlight for you today during this show, relative to how we learn from failure and why most people don't. The reasons why most people don't, I highlighted to the best of my ability to start the podcast today, but I want to talk to you about how we can pull those lessons, those teachable moments, as Guy Winch calls them, from that failing experience. We don't do a good enough job of taking a look at how we planned for whatever it was that we set out to accomplish. So when we fail, like Dylan said a few minutes ago, we internalize it, we take it personally, and then we try to make excuses for it instead of reevaluating how we plan for that activity. Okay? So some questions I think that you have to ask yourself if you come up to a situation where you feel like you failed or you haven't accomplished a goal. How much time did you spend planning before you started the task? Donnie, I can say to you, you and I had a conversation through text today, and you guys have talked to me a bunch about the amount of time I have to invest to continue to build the brand outside of just the recording. And it's never fun to hear when people you care about tell you things that may bruise your ego a little bit or be a little bit of a gut punch, but it forces you to take a real good look at how are you planning to accomplish your task. So when you set out for another task, one of the first things that you can do is reevaluate how you plan for that task. How much thought did you put to the hurdles that may stand in your way or the problems that might come up as you were going to approach this task or goal? Most of us, and this is not speculation, this is research and 20 years of working with people that are trying to work past personal, professional, or emotional failures. Most of us spend little to no time planning, despite the fact that life will throw obstacles in our way. And then when we fail, we blame everybody else, and we never stop and take a look at what we could have done differently to plan for these failures. It's everybody else's fault. It's the coach's fault, the teacher's fault, my boss's fault. It's everybody else's fault. But then when one of those people says to you, hey, how much time did you actually plan for the obstacles that may stand in your way? Most of us will say, well, none. I just went out and tried to get it done. You know, this old adage, just get it done, get it done, get it done. There's some truth to that in putting your feet on the ground and just doing the work. But if you do the work and you continuously fail, you have to reevaluate how you're doing the work. So I think that's the first piece. Really, step one is reevaluate how you plan for anything that you're looking to attack. So in the future, you can make sure to plan that general strategy. You can start to write down and conceptualize the setbacks that may occur. And you can figure out, you could plan how you will overcome them before you start. It's very, very difficult to teach fire prevention while the house is burning down. But you can certainly teach fire prevention long before the house is on fire so that you have a plan in place, A, to keep the house from catching on fire. But if it does, and you could use this analogy in any area of your life, how am I going to put that fire out as quickly, safely, and efficiently as possible? So we got to reevaluate how we plan. The second thing that we don't do enough of is we don't prepare. So we have to plan, but we also have to prepare. If your goal is to get healthy and go to the gym 3 times a week, or if your goal is to read for 25 or 30 minutes every day, or if your goal is to excel in your business, how are you going to prepare for that? And most of us, again, after 20 years of doing this with people from all walks of life, from all across the country, people don't prepare. Mental preparation is a critically important part of becoming successful, i.e. significant in anything that you try to accomplish. You have to prepare for obstacles. You have to prepare for the things that are going to stand in your way that you can anticipate because life has showed you those things before. I want to go to the gym 4 days a week, but on Thursday nights when I'm supposed to go to the gym, my babysitter calls and she cancels. If my wife is at work, well, what's the plan? Am I going to cause a ruckus in the house that minute when I have to go to the gym, and now it's my wife's fault because she's not home? My kids are making me mad because they don't want to go with me, and I haven't done anything to prepare for this situation if it was going to occur. The babysitter bailed on me. Well, what are my options? Hey, kids, sorry, pile in the car, but Daddy deserves 1 hour so that I can be a better father when I get home for you guys. I need this hour. Or maybe I have more than one babysitter in mind that I can call. Maybe I can schedule my workout time at a time where I know that child conflicts will not arise. Maybe it means I have to get out of bed an hour earlier in the morning to get my workout in. See, we want great things to happen in our lives, but we don't prepare for those great things to happen. And then when they don't happen, we blame everybody else and we say, well, life got in the way. I just couldn't get there today. No, you could get there. You just didn't prepare to get there. So we've got to plan. We've got to prepare. One of the things that Donnie and Dylan share with me all the time as we're working to build this brand, and this is the third thing I think will really help, according to Dr. Winch, and I did a lot of reading on it, makes perfect sense. We have to reevaluate our execution. What does that mean? As you were executing your plan, were you consistent? Was your work ethic consistent? Was your motivation consistent? Was your general mindset around what you were trying to accomplish consistent? Or were you all fired up on day one, day two, a little excited, day three, that excitement starts to dwindle, by day 5, 6, and 7, if you get there, great. If you don't, not the end of the world, life goes on. If that's the mindset you have, you will not succeed at anything you are trying to accomplish. We have to reevaluate our execution. When those drop-offs occur in effort, in work ethic, in motivation, in mindset, we've got to figure out why. Identify what it was that caused you to get demotivated. Identify what it was that derailed your efforts. Because if you can start to identify the things that stand in the way of you keeping your mindset strong, you'll be better able to work through them in the future. You've got to be able to build in a specific plan of execution when you're going to attempt anything. Now remember, that doesn't mean if you change the execution at the first attempt, you're going to succeed. You're going to accomplish your goal. I wish it was that simple. We go back and forth in this studio. I go back and forth with my clients, my students, my families, the folks I work with all across the country. I go back and forth with them all the time. And one of the things that we know is that the work that we're doing together is ongoing work. It is fluid work, meaning we are going to try something. If it works, that's awesome. If it doesn't work, we're going to go back to the drawing board and we're going to take a look at what worked about the plan, what didn't work about the plan, and then we're going to reevaluate the execution. We're going to execute differently the next time. So we have, take a good look at your planning. Take a good look at your preparation. How are you executing? And then the last piece, which I think is critically important, is focus on the things that are within your control. Because when we fail, it makes us feel helpless. And it leads people to believe that we'll never succeed no matter what we do or try. It's that self-defeating attitude. That frustration tolerance gets really low. And we believe that, you know what, it's easier and it makes more sense based on my general quality of life to just give up than to keep trying at something that I will never, ever accomplish. And I don't believe that's true for any of us. I believe that we can push much, much further than we're used to and that we think we're capable of. But we have to focus on the stuff that is within our control. Those feelings of helplessness, those feelings of defeat, okay? Yeah, they're strong feelings. But they are not reality. Facts and feelings are not the same thing. You can feel defeated. You can feel helpless. But you can also feel empowered. You can feel capable. You can feel strong. You can feel relentless. As easily as it is to teach yourself that you are helpless and that you're defeated, you can also teach yourself that you are empowered, that you're strong, that you're capable, that you can do these things, even though at the first attempt, the second attempt, the third attempt, it didn't go your way. We have way more control over these things in our lives than we realize. You didn't get your promotion. We feel rejected. We feel not good enough. We tried harder than we ever tried before, but our best efforts were not sufficient. And then we say, I've done every single thing I can do. That's where I have to stop and call BS. You've done every single thing that you know of that you can do. That doesn't mean you've done everything that you can do. Well, John, how do I know what to do differently? If you don't know what you don't know, how do I know what to do differently? We have to reach out to people that we trust. We have to read. We have to engross ourselves in the things that are important to us so that we can learn the things that we don't know. That person that doesn't get the promotion at their job, and in their mind, they've done every single thing they could do. Well, did you take a workshop to beef up your skills? Did you go to a seminar on your own time and your own dollar because maybe you were weak at presenting? What have you done to become more knowledgeable about your clients? How good are you at cultivating relationships with people? How much do you work on improving your network? How can you find other ways where you can be an asset to that company while you work to apply for the next promotion so that you can earn that promotion by proving your worth before you get it? These are all things that are within our control. These are all things that we can own. The same way we can own those feelings of helplessness, of defeat, of sadness, of anger, of frustration. The same way we own those feelings, and we're all so good at owning those feelings, we can also own the same feelings of strength, of empowerment, of self-worth. But no one's going to hand them to us. We have to go out and chase them. And the way we do that is by constantly reevaluating our plan, reevaluating our preparation, reevaluating our execution. And according to Dr. Winch, focus on the stuff that is within our control. This is stuff that I have worked with people on for a long, long time, but every single time I pick up something new to read or learn, I pick up something new. Remember, a few episodes ago, one of the greatest takeaways from Rourke Denver, former Navy SEAL, actor, presenter, national speaker, and leader, try something new every day and learn something new every single day. If you don't know where to look, you won't find it by doing nothing. One of the things I can share with you is I've learned that in trying to build this brand, the social media presence is critically important. I am not great at it. I have to have very, very difficult conversations with people that I care about, respect, and love a great deal. One of them, both of them are sitting in this room right now, but one in particular, Donnie from Seven Roads Media, says to me all the time, you're not going to figure out how to do it unless you do it. And so I'm going to continue to try to get better and try to keep doing it. If you don't know where to look, you won't find it by looking nowhere. You have to start somewhere. That's how failure becomes our teacher. When you look at all of the things that we just talked about, reevaluate the plan, reevaluate the preparation. What variables are within our control? How are we executing? When we honestly take a look at that, when we run into setbacks and failures, then we stand a much, much better chance of being able to grow and get better because of those failures. But we have to put the ego aside. We have to eat some humble pie, and we have to say, it's not because of anyone else or anything else that I'm not reaching the goals that I want to reach. It's because I need to do a better job of looking at my plan. I need to do a better job of looking at my preparation. I need to do a better job of looking at my execution. I need to do a better job of looking at the things that are within my control that I immediately label as helpless, defeated, can't do it. We have to remove those words from our way of thinking when we're trying to accomplish something so that failure can, in fact, become one of our greatest teachers. If you want to learn more about failure as a teacher, please check out Dr. Winch, PhD, on Twitter. I will tag his information to the show notes, but it's capital G, U-Y, capital W-I-N-C-H, Guy Winch on Twitter. Hopefully you took something from this episode that will help you grow and get better. Hopefully you'll view failure as a way to learn and improve. And as always, I'm so grateful for your attention to this platform and this space as we all use our talents, strengths, and gifts to grow and get better together. Love you all so much. Be well. Be good to those you love. Let them know you love them. And have a great day. Thank you to Seven Roads Media and Cloud9 Marketing Group for co-producing the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Without you, I cannot continue to do what I love. You can follow me personally on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real John C. Martin. I'd love to hear from you, so please reach out with comments and questions after each episode. Your comments push me to get better every day. As always, thank you for your continued support, and don't forget, win today.